Jeez.
All right, it says that we are live. So hello, Facebook. Dr. Logan, you can go on to look for Ask Schellie.
Is that what I need to do?
Yeah, go to you because you want it on your timeline, correct?
Okay, I can do that. All right,
So
hold on.
what you can do is go to Ask Schellie, look for the live, and then just share it to your timeline.
So go on Facebook and go to Ask Schellie.
Ask Schellie, yes. All right. I'm gonna do the same.
All right, I will do so. Let's see here. I'm gonna just look for you. Let's see. All right.
Hello, Facebook. We're just trying to get all our shares in. Let's see here.
Let's see.
Oh, I see us. Yay.
Oh, I see us. Okay. So, all right, I'm on Ask Schellie. What I need to do? Oh, so click on the live.
You see us?
Yes, I do see us.
Okay. And so you're going to click on share and you're going to share it to your timeline.
Let me open this up a little bit. So click on share. And where might I find share at here?
You see it like it should be right underneath us.
Let's see, settings? No? Wait a minute, I lost you. Hold on. It's recording. I don't see share though.
You don't? You should see that right under us.
Right under us.
Yeah.
Or Ask Schellie.
You can actually go into the live and right next to the comment section, there will be an option that says share there as well.
Okay. All right.
Hello,
so
Audrey Williams. Quebec, I see you watching. So you're in the right place.
Wait a minute. I said, wait a minute. Share. All right. And once I hit share, what do I do?
Okay. So does it give you an option to write post?
Let me just post it.
Because you don't have to write a post. You could just click share or post, and then it should be on your timeline. Hello, Danielle. I got to put this up. We're in a different format, so I want to make sure I could see Facebook.
I think I got it. Okay.
You got it?
I think so. I think it's sharing.
You should be able to go to your page. Let me do that now. I'm going to go to your page and see if I see it.
Let me see. I can go to my page and see if it's on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's on there. There you go.
It is?
It's live now. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, perfect. So let me put this where I can see everybody. Hello, Facebook. Welcome to this week's Ask Schellie segment. Just give me 1 second. I'm just getting everything situated here. All right.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. I think you're live on yours as well, sir.
Okay.
Okay, Danielle Blanchard, thank you so much for tuning in. Audrey Williams, thank you so much for tuning into this week's. Sandra Leslie, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have people coming on in now. And so again, welcome to this week's Ask Schellie segment. And just as promised last week, we had a conversation about infidelity, about cheating. The question was, why do men cheat? And I said to you guys, I will be sure to invite a professional who does not have as much estrogen as I do to be on this platform with me so we can have a fair discussion. And so as promised, we have Dr. Quebec Logan, and I'm going to give him an opportunity to introduce himself. He's a licensed psychologist. But before I do that, I just want to remind everyone of who I am. I am Schellie Fanfan, and I am the CEO and founder of Ask Schellie Consulting, which is an emotional intelligence firm where we specialize in bringing corporations and other business entities to their next level through the provision of psychoeducation. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, so I also have the privilege of working with individuals and couples and families and helping them to overcome obstacles and to get to their next level as well. People ask me questions all the time. I think that Dr. Logan, you would agree that people love to ask questions about humans. We want to know about each other. We want to know why we think the way that we think, why we love the way that we love, why we screw up the way that we screw up. Whatever it is, people ask questions all the time. And so I have used this platform to share a question live every Tuesday at 12 with all of you. You guys are my consulting group. So please make sure you are chiming in. You can start your commentary about why men cheat, and we will be sure to try our best to answer questions as they come in. So this is in no way an attempt to replace therapy. For those of you who feel like you need therapy, you can always reach out to info@askschellie.com. I can assist you with connecting with a therapist in the community if that's not me, but therapy is a collaboration. It's a journey where people actually consent to the process. It can be extremely uncomfortable, but this is when we provide evidence-based techniques to help people to break past maladaptive thinking patterns, behavioral patterns, so much more, just bringing them to a place where people are able to overcome their emotional injury or any other obstacle that keeps them from being the best version of themselves. Now we are just sharing a perspective, something for you to add to your wellness toolbox. If it's not for you, if you don't think it works for you, you can share it with a loved one. But we are providing perspectives. It may not be the answer, but I think it'll be pretty close to the answer because I really trust this man. So Dr. Quebec Logan is a licensed psychologist who practices out of Arizona, right?
Yes.
Phoenix,
yes, correct.
Arizona.
Arizona.
At Florida State University, and he's from up north like I am. Dr. Quebec Logan, please introduce yourself professionally and then also give us a little bit about you personally as well.
Okay. Hello, Facebook. I'm Dr. Quebec Logan, America's favorite hood psychologist. I'm a licensed psychologist here in Phoenix, Arizona, and I run a private practice called Think Psychological and Consulting Services. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Brickyard to be exact. What's happening, all my Brickyardians? And, typical story. Grew up in an impoverished neighborhood, single parent household, raised by my wonderful mother, Miss Logan. Hi, mommy, if you're watching. Went on to get a PhD in psychology from Florida State University, where I met Miss beautiful Schellie Fanfan, and here I am today.
Yay! So when you hear this question, why do men cheat? That was the question. I don't know how fair of a question that is because that really puts men in a huge pot of men into a little cup. So what are your thoughts when you think about that?
Okay.
Why do men cheat?
So my first thought would be a question. With the question of why do men cheat, are we suggesting that women don't cheat, or that's just not the topic of conversation right now?
I think it was a question that was posed by a woman. But I don't think that it would be fair for us to assume that women don't. So what I did last week, actually, just to make it fair, I indicated to my listeners that we're just going to change the question a little bit and say, why do people cheat, right? Okay. But then most of the comments just continue to kind of swing back to the men. So,
okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll start with men, and then we can talk about people, right?
Okay.
So
that's fair.
I can handle that, because men cheat, right? Men cheat and women cheat, but we can start with
men.
Absolutely, for sure.
Do you?
Oh, you making this personal?
I'm just kidding.
Talk about that too. And actually, this is a very, me, and I think you bring me onto these segments because I'm kind of open about my personal life, and but me, and this is a very timely subject matter for me, to be quite honest. So we get into that later. At any rate, so why do men cheat? So from, and I always like to look at, relationships and men and women and from really basic, from biological standpoint, right? To start, because I think we look at it from that way, then we can kind of understand some of the things we do behaviorally if we understand the biology of how we work and how we function as people. So from a biological perspective, a lot of people, a lot of researchers will say men cheat because of the chemicals. We have more testosterone in women, therefore we're more likely to want to engage in sex, right? So that's a basic kind of why men are more likely to cheat than women. It's the chemical difference. We have more testosterone versus women having more estrogen. Basic. Now, in terms of people, there are multiple reasons why a lot of people say people cheat. A lot of researchers will say people cheat. And we can get into those too, if you want to talk about those. Individual reasons, there's relationship reasons, and there's situational reasons, to name kind of like the big three a lot of researchers talk about.
Okay, so you're saying that because men have more testosterone, then the frequency of cheating or the rate of cheating is higher in men as a result of that?
No, I'm not saying that at all, Schellie.
Okay, I'm sorry. Just repeat that. I was trying to get your information on this live. Go ahead.
Okay, so from a biological perspective, from a chemical perspective, because men have more testosterone, we're more likely to have a higher sex drive. And if you have a higher sex drive, that doesn't necessarily mean you're likely to cheat. But if you do something more, or you have a higher propensity to do something more, then the likelihood that you're going to do something negative more increases. So the likelihood that men would cheat, a lot of researchers say from a biological perspective, you can look at the chemical difference between men and women. Men having more testosterone, which is going to increase the likelihood that they're going to want to engage in sexual activities, which will increase the likelihood that they might cheat. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
But it isn't cause and effect. It isn't more testosterone equals cheating. That's not at all what I'm saying.
Okay. So from a biological perspective, because of and I respect that, because I think it's important for us to see it in many different perspectives. Mm-hmm. So, and in terms of why people cheat, can you repeat that?
So in terms of why people cheat, sometimes researchers look at a couple areas: individual factors, right? Situational factors and relationship factors. Individual factors, like we started talking about, like differences between men and women. One of the things that he talked about with regard to individual factors is the difference between chemicals, testosterone versus estrogen in men and women, right? Also, in regards to this, is something you and I talked about kind of offline before we started. One of the other individual differences that might be particularly relevant to your audience, high achieving women in particular, is according to the research, this is me talking, but according to the research, women that are more educated than their spouses, that are more educated, okay, that have higher levels of achievement than their spouses, are also more likely to cheat. So CEO chicks that don't have CEO husbands are more likely to cheat than CEO chicks with CEO husbands, or regular women that have men that are on the same footing, socioeconomically, educationally, and so forth.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is that women who are high achieving women have a higher, they're more probable to step out of their relationships because they have chosen partners that are not as high achieving or accomplished as them.
If they have spouses that are not as accomplished, absolutely. Okay. And the reason being is because the person that has, the higher socioeconomic status isn't as afraid of losing the other individual because they're in a more powerful position. They're in a more powerful position socioeconomically. So they're afraid if they cheat and I lose this guy, oh, well, I can still pay my bills. I can still have my nice car. I can still have my nice house. I'm still going to have my business. I'm still going to be CEO. He can go back to his regular life, right? Okay. Where if the dynamic is reversed, is a little bit different.
Okay. So one of the things that we talked about last time, I just want to summarize some of the comments that were made to give you an opportunity to address them. And then we're going to dive into some statistics.
Okay.
So, and this is just a summary of some of the statements that were made during the live last week when we were talking about why men, although I was trying to make it why men cheat. And the first comment, which was made by me, just to kind of start the conversation, was if there weren't women that allowed it, then men wouldn't cheat. But because there are women that allow it and provide that reinforcement, then it continues to happen. What are your thoughts on that?
My first thought is, what do you mean by allow it?
So from a behavioral perspective, what usually happens after a behavior will either strengthen it or weaken it. That's behavioral 101, right? And so there has to be an opportunity to do so. So there are women that are okay with it. There are women that are okay with the man that's in the relationship. There are women that are okay with men that are that are married. As a matter of fact, I did a live, I want to say toward the middle of last year, maybe like right when I launched Ask Schellie, where there were studies that show that women are more attracted to married men. So there are many women that are okay with the man, with being in a relationship with a man who is married. So there's an allowance there and there's an opportunity there. And a lot of the times when we're talking about behavior, specifically maladaptive, whether there is an opportunity for that behavior to happen will also determine how frequent that behavior will happen. So the greater the opportunity, the greater the probability that the behavior will happen. So when you take it down to kind of layman's terms, that means that whatever is or whoever is providing the opportunity is a part of why it happens. And women who allow it to happen, who are okay with the girlfriend, okay with the fact that you're engaged, okay with the fact that you are married, the more women that we have that actually allow and embrace that, then we're going to continue to see that behavior happen.
Okay. So I don't know that women or men, for that matter, allow anyone to do anything. I understand from a behavioral perspective, we're either going to, do something to reinforce a behavior or do something to help extinguish that behavior, right? So in other words, your spouse goes out, your husband goes out and he cheats. Your response to that behavior is going to either reinforce it or help to extinguish it, right? It's going to reinforce it, which is what you're saying. You're allowing it because maybe you accept it on some level, or, you don't accept it and you leave and you don't allow it. So you're extinguishing behavior altogether because you left it. But you're saying women, allow it, so therefore it will continue. I agree, we can reinforce certain behaviors, but I don't know that it's as simple as, reward punishment with regards to relationships, because they're so dynamic. And men and women will allow certain things because certain reasons, not because it's their desire for that behavior to continue, but because maybe their situation necessitates that, right? So I can't leave this man because I'm a stay-at-home mother and he pays all the bills. And if I leave him, where am I going? Right? Or I can't leave this woman because, she's the CEO and she pays all the bills. And, if I leave her, where am I going? So that, I don't know that it boils down to simply, reward and punishment, or women allow men to do anything. People do things for specific reasons. And, depending upon the nature of those reasons, the thing that they do in this case, cheating, could be either good or bad. We're assuming cheating is a bad thing. But I think you have to define that, right? So like, what are we really talking about with regards to cheating? Are we just talking about someone having sex with another person, but being involved with someone, having a wife, and then the man going to have a sex with another person, or the wife going to have a sex with another person? Is that infidelity, right? Is it? That's a question. Is that infidelity?
You're talking about sex?
Sex, right. If I'm married and I go have sex with another woman, is that infidelity automatically?
Ooh, okay. You're taking it a little bit deeper, Dr. Logan.
It's a deep situation.
So I would define, and Facebook, I'd like you to also, what's your definition of infidelity? What is your definition of infidelity? What is your definition of cheating? So I think that Dr. Logan has just really just shifted this whole entire conversation, because it starts there. Because if a wife is okay with her husband going out, or if the husband's okay with the wife going out and having sex, is it still infidelity? I think at that particular point, it's not. I think that we are talking about people that have, and help me Facebook, because I'm struggling right now. I think that infidelity is about two individuals who have committed to one another and have decided to enter into an exclusive relationship with one another, whether it's a committed relationship or engaged to be married or married. So they have made a commitment to be with that one person and has broken that commitment through, for whatever reason, and just broke that commitment. I don't know how else to say it, because I was going to add manipulation and lying in there, but people cheat and don't manipulate about it or lie about it, or very honest about it. So again, it's just a breach of that agreement. It's a breaking of that commitment that we have with one another to be exclusive.
Okay, again, I think we're on the right track, but I would add, I don't necessarily think it's a breaking of the agreement to be exclusive, because again, we just agreed that you can be married exclusive and have sex with another person and that not automatically be considered infidelity, right? I think infidelity comes in when you overstep the boundaries that have been established between you and your spouse that define what infidelity is, right? So infidelity isn't automatically you cheated on, you had sex with someone else, or you engaged in something that your spouse wouldn't like. That isn't necessarily infidelity, because as you said, if you talk with your spouse about this, listen, this is what we're going to do. Or the person that don't have to be your spouse, be a significant other, the person that you're in a relationship with. If you have an understanding where, for instance, we're dating, right? I like you, you like me, but we're dating. Therefore, if I decide to be with somebody else, that's cool. If you decide to be with somebody else, that's cool. But when you and I are together, then we're together. When we're not, we're doing our own thing. You know, if you have that understanding, that's one thing. So therefore, if the person goes out and does something, that isn't a negative thing, right? It isn't a bad thing. But if you don't have that understanding, if your understanding is, listen, we're in an exclusive relationship, which means you can't have sex with nobody else under any circumstances, you know, and then you violate those boundaries, then you have a situation where you're, you know, dealing with some infidelity. And I think the problem becomes, for most people, they don't define what infidelity is for them in their relationship, right? And we all have different ideas of what infidelity is. It isn't a singular thing.
So you bring up a good point about communication and really sitting down and talking about what those boundaries are. Do you think couples do that, or do you think that we most of the time we're entering into assumptions about what being exclusive is?
I think couples do that, but I think it's scary, right? I think it's scary for people to reveal themselves to their partners, particularly early on in relationships, right? Let's talk about for women, for example, right? I think it's scary for a woman to say she enjoys sex with a lot of people, right? Like multiple partners. And a lot of women do, right? And we assume that that's a not so good of a thing, right? We label women like that as certain names, right? But when men do it, we don't label them the same way. We just say, oh, they being men, right? Men can go out and, you know, sleep with 50 women, you know, and get high fives all around the board. You know, women go out and sleep with 50 men, right? She gonna be, you know, she gonna get the side eye and be looked at crazy and be labeled and things like that. So I think it's really based on, you know, yes, couples do talk about it, but I think it's a subject that's really, really hard to talk about and be honest about. I was listening to a guy, and he made an observation about men, right? So he said, no one ever, I want to get it right. He said, a man, he was talking about porn stars. Okay, let me just keep it 100. He was talking about porn stars. He said, no one ever asks if a man who's getting head by 10 beautiful women is doing it because he has to get his rent paid, right? No one ever asks that, because it's like, shit, why wouldn't he do it, right? It's 10 beautiful women, of course. right? But that's the question with women. So the assumption is a woman couldn't do that. A man could do it because he enjoys it. It don't have anything to do with money. He don't need to get his rent paid because he's engaged in these type of activities. But when a woman does it, the assumption generally is they're doing it for some other reasons other than the fact that they might enjoy having multiple partners in that way, the same way a man could enjoy that same experience and no one would question it at all. You know what I mean? I have never looked at a male porn star like, yeah, he's screwing all those chicks because he need to pay rent. Like, he'd do it for free, right? He would do it for free. Most men, if you say, come here, I got 10 beautiful women, come here. You can have your way with them. But you got to do it for free. Most men aren't going to be like, nah, I need to be paid. Hey, most men will do it, right? Just in general. Women, on the other hand, we don't look at women that way. If the woman does the same thing, I got these 10 beautiful men. You can have your way with all 10 of them. Whatever you want one, that's fine. 10, you want 10, that's fine. It has to be another reason other than, she just enjoys it. There might be, something fun for her to do. So it's just how you look at men and women, and we typically don't reveal ourselves in that way very, very quickly to people. We don't reveal our deepest desires, particularly sexually, relationships. I know some women that like some weird things. Right. And they come into my office and they tell me about these things. They would never tell their spouses these things for fear of being judged.
It's so interesting that you say that, because the other day, and it's so horrible, Dr. Q, you're going to have to help me because I don't like watching TV. Even during this pandemic, I have not fallen prey to the Netflix thing. So you're going to have to excuse me. Facebook, for those of you who watch Netflix, you're going to kind of know what I'm talking about because it's some hot show that's out now, or I don't know what it is, but somebody asked me my opinion on this because it kind of falls in line with what you're saying. And I think we're starting to branch off into why women cheat. So it's a Netflix show, help me Facebook, and it's about a woman who is cheating on her husband. And her husband he knows about this. I think he has like videos of her having sexual relations with another man, right? And so in this video, he sees that she has a completely different sexual personality than what he's used to. So the person that she's cheating with in these videos is very aggressive, and he is, like smacking her on the bottom and all these other aggressive things that she declares she doesn't like. So after the husband finds out, and what is that called, guys? What is it? I look over here because that's where my phone is. So whatever the show is, he then has this encounter with his wife, and he starts to mimic the behaviors of this man that she's having sexual relations with. So he's being aggressive, and he's, smacking her on the bottom and pulling her hair and all these other things. And afterwards, she asks him, like, why did you do this? I don't like it. So why did you do it? But husband knows she does because he sees her reaction with this man. And so I read a study where the reason that most men are more likely to cheat after children are born, right, in a marriage, that after children or in a relationship, because they no longer see sex or perceive their woman as adventurous or sexual, and then they tend to perceive the woman more as maternal. And so the reason why they step outside of the, I'm just telling you, I'm reading this, and that the reason why they step outside of that relationship. So women, stop trying to be mamas to your husbands. Can I get an amen? Can you please stop trying to be his mama? Anyway, so when men start to see the woman that they love as more maternal, then sex loses its adventure and they step out. But when you look at this last scenario that I just shared, wouldn't that be the same for this woman? That she's having all of these sexual encounters with the man that she's not with, and she's having the same encounters with her husband and saying, I don't like it, don't ever hit me that way again. So what are your thoughts?
I'm laughing because I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts about this particular subject. I've talked about this for years with people, and it's wow. It's an interesting dynamic when it comes to how partners engage one another and what we do and don't do with our significant other versus what we do and don't do with somebody we're just having sex with, right?
Okay.
So like for men, right? So men, I would agree on some level that men maybe a little more, and I don't even know if this is true, because I can argue either way, but I think it is not uncommon for a man to be a little more, and women actually, I think to go both ways, for men and women to be a little bit more reserved with their spouses, right? I don't think it's that uncommon, because again, it goes back to what I was saying. We move in certain ways because we fear judgment by other people, particularly the people we love the most, particularly people we're closest to, our spouses, our significant others, our husbands, our wives. We don't want them to see us as being weird or some kind of freak or something like that, right? We manicured this image for this particular person, and they've accepted this image. So everybody got other things that they may not necessarily want their spouse to see, you know. You might have habits you might not want your man to know about, or your woman to know about, and those habits can go into sexual things as well. So what I might do with my significant other might be very, very different than what I might do if I'm on vacation and I'm tricking off with somebody, right? I can be a totally different person. This person doesn't know me. I can be whoever the hell I want to be. She don't know me, and then I'm gonna leave, and she ain't gonna never see me again. So she can judge me all she wants. She has no impact on my life. Where one day if I walked in a thong and balloons wrapped around me or something crazy, and to my wife and be like, hey baby, this is, I like this, that might, have some ramifications that you might not be ready for, or you might be concerned about, right? Or if your wife walked in all of a sudden, she told you, hey baby, I want you to bring your friend over, and I just want y'all to just whatever, like my friend, what the hell? But she might go on vacation and meet two guys and nothing to it. You know what I mean? Do what she wanted to do. She wanted to have a threesome. She met two guys and did it. But she never think about asking her husband to do it because she don't want her husband to think something negative about her. But she might really want to do it. I had a friend told me she liked gangbangs. I'm like, you gonna tell your man that? I don't think she would ever tell her man that. You know what I mean? But that's something that she likes.
So we have just, in just this conversation, I just want to make sure that we summarize some of the points that we're making, because I think it's important for married couples, those who are in seriously dating relationships or committed relationships. First, we talked about making sure that you're not assuming the definition of what infidelity is. That was one of the points that Dr. Logan made, that it's important to discuss it and have that uncomfortable discussion. What are the boundaries, right? Some women, there are a lot of women, and possibly men as well, where even emotional ties is considered cheating, right? That it has little, not necessarily little to do with sex, but even just an emotional attachment or connection with someone else is considered infidelity. Spending time with someone else may be considered infidelity. Sharing personal information about your family or your unit outside of that unit is considered infidelity. So have that uncomfortable conversation, especially for those of you, it doesn't really matter. Even if you're married, you can still have that conversation about what does that mean to you? What does that look like to you? So that's the first point that we talked about. Have the discussion. What does infidelity mean to you? What does cheating mean to you? That is so important. The second thing that we're talking about is remove the mask. I think it's important for us to start to be open and free unapologetically about the things that turn us on. Those fantasies, the fetish, those types of things. And I know that it can be extremely uncomfortable to do that. And there's probably a lot of societal stuff that comes into play, learned, behaviors, these schemas that we have about what's what women do, what we don't do, what's dirty, what's not, what's holy, what's not. Or I think it's important to find that safe space and have that conversation, because the more that we wear our mask, I'm talking about women, the more we have these desires and these needs that we want met. And the next thing you know, you're finding someone outside of that unit that's willing to serve that. And so it's important to be very open with your partner about that, and men as well, to their partners. Have that uncomfortable discussion. Like when you're having sex, there is, and I don't know the percentage, so I don't want to quote any percentages, but Dr. Quebec, I have found in counseling women that a lot of what goes through our minds during that sexual exchange is not what's happening in that sexual exchange. That our minds are somewhere else, where our minds are on the man at the checkout line at Publix, or, so, and that's a problem. I know that it may contribute to the sexual experience, but think about it, like you are with your husband, but your mind is completely somewhere else. And I think that may be somewhat of a normal process through that, sexual experience. But I also feel that has a lot to do with what we're talking about right now, if not necessarily talking about what we really want or really desire. So do you think that's wrong, that women can have their minds on something completely different, or men on their minds on something completely different while they're intimate with the ones that they do love?
I think that's a challenge for everybody in everyday life, just being present in the moment. And that doesn't, exclude, sexual interactions, I think as people, particularly in today's time, we have so many distractions. We have cell phones, we have 10 social media accounts, we have live, we have this, we have that. It's very, very difficult to be present in the moment. And for an authentic, intimate sexual encounter, you really have to focus your attention and focus your mind on that particular person and on that particular moment, and be present. When you're not present, that's when you're thinking about the dude at the grocery store, or what's going to happen, what you're going to do after this done, or wish he hurry up, or wish she hurry up, or I'm ready to go play the video game, or I'm ready to have a drink, or can't wait to smoke after this is over, or whatever the case might be, because you're not present in the moment. I think time to just try to clear our mind of those things and be genuinely and authentically present in that particular moment, then you won't have those thoughts. And if you do, it's natural, but they won't linger. There'll be fleeting thoughts. It's okay to think about other things, but it just takes practice to just be present. We have to work on that every day, with intimacy and otherwise.
One of the things that we ran into last week when we were talking about this on my live is there were women that really believed, and this is not only from people commenting on the live, but also reaching out to me afterwards, where a lot of people will watch and won't comment, will definitely connect afterwards. Women who believe that it is impossible for men to cheat and still love a woman, where men would say, I can absolutely love a woman and still cheat. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I think men and women. I think you can love somebody and still cheat on them. Don't mean you don't love them. You're expressing your love in an odd way if you're cheating, but claim to love someone. But I believe you can absolutely love people. I mean, we do it all the time, right? We love people in our family, but we might not deal with them. We might not go to their house, but you love them. You don't want anything bad to happen to them. If they need your support, you'll go help them. But you got to feed them with a long-handled spoon. So I think you can absolutely love somebody, but still cheat on them. I think what makes the difference between whether or not you cheat on someone or not that you love is your desire to want them to feel good or bad. And when I first graduated from school, somebody taught me this. And I had my first job as a counselor at Thomas Jefferson Hospital in Philadelphia, cocaine addiction treatment facility. One of the counselors there, his name was Tom. I can't remember his last name. Tom was an older white dude, and he had been married for years. And at that time, I might have been, 22, 23, fresh out of college, right in it. That bachelor's degree. I was just getting to my psychological career. And I asked Tom, I couldn't imagine being married. He hadn't been married for like 30 years. So I'm like, what the hell? Like, how do you do it, Tom? I'm like, what is it? I said, what's the secret sauce to being married that long, brother? He tells me, he said, I just don't want to hurt my wife. Right? He says, that simple. I don't want to hurt her. And I know if I cheated, I would hurt her. And I don't want to do that. And that has resonated with me for years. So I think you can love somebody, but when you get to the point where you don't want to hurt them, you move different, right? Where you know when you do certain things, whether they found out or not, it will hurt them, and you don't want to do that. You just move differently, you know. So you know, yeah, old girl over there look good, but she's not an option because you know that will hurt your lady. Or the guy that the clerk, the young 25-year-old at the store, he's fine as hell, but you know that's not an option because you know that will hurt your man. I mean, I think when we get to that point of love, when we're moving to ensure that we not only cultivate the love but protect, you know, the other person's feelings, then I think you're moving in the right direction, you know. But yeah, you can absolutely love and still cheat. You don't give a fuck if they. I mean, it might not even be about you not caring, but you can still do it and still say you love someone. And again, it's levels to it. You know, when you get to a certain level, you know, you won't do it because you just don't want to hurt them.
And I think it comes from self-discipline, which can be a manifestation of love, where you are choosing to say no to something that you do want to do.
Sure. Absolutely.
And we have to get to, I mean, we're not animals.
Right.
We shouldn't be just reacting to any type of stimuli because that's what separates us from animals, the ability to respond and not react. And so when we're living our lives just saying yes to everything that we want, and despite the ramifications of it and the hurt that it's that you're exposing your loved ones to, especially when you're talking about children as well, and then your extended family. I mean, it can get really big, right? Infidelity is systemic because when people cheat and then it gets exposed, it's something that affects so many people that are involved in that family system. And so I'm so happy that you said that. That is really profound. You know, we don't have to have everything that we want. As a matter of fact, a lot of times it's a trap. So being able to exercise discipline and just remember your why. Remember your why. Remember the people that you love and the sacrifices that they have made to love and support you. I think that's all part of that deterrent that we need to not do what we want to do all the time. Someone mentioned on the live that men cheat because they have needs that are not being met. I think that that's definitely something that would be true of women as well. I think we talked about sexual need a little bit earlier. Like, you know, we need to be honest about what we want, what we like. We need to have those, you know, those conversations with our loved ones. I do intimacy coaching and talk about how to really maximize your satisfaction in the hot zone of your sexual experience with the people that you love. And it goes back to the things that happen in cold zone, when you're having those conversations with the people that you love or showing them, like you said. Sometimes you don't even have to talk about it. You could just show the person that you love what it is you like. And no matter how outlandish it is, right? To make sure that we're comfortable having those conversations. When it comes down to what men generally need when they do step out because needs are not being met. And I know it's unfair because you're not every man in this world, but I'd love for you to share for women to hear, what are men's needs?
I think men's needs vary. I don't think, you know, the needs are the same for every man in every relationship.
Generally.
I don't know if there's a general to that question. That's like saying, what are women's needs, right? Women, you know, what you might need can be very different than what, you know, your girlfriend or your coworker might need out of a relationship.
I can answer that.
Okay, so what do women need?
I think so. Like you said, women we're individuals, so it does vary. But I think generally women need safety, and that's defined and perceived in so many different ways. But I think that, you know, in just my experience in dealing with women and self-esteem and motivation issues, it really always boils down to safety.
That's interesting. I'll talk to you about that another time. But I don't know if men have a thing like that. I don't know if I can say men need this. Me personally, you know, I think something that's big for me is just honesty, just being honest. I think I can deal with almost anything if you're honest about it, even cheating, right? You know, because it wouldn't be cheating. You tell me this is what I want to do, and I'm accepting. I'm not going to accept it. If I choose not to accept it, then I'm moving myself out of the way of being hurt. If I accept it, then I'm cool. Go ahead, do your thing. I'll see you when you get back. You know what I mean? So I think honesty just plays a big part for me, and I think it probably does for a lot of men. Yeah. Yeah, I'll leave it right there. I think honesty is a big thing because that plays in kind of like the loyalty and things like that. Um, yeah, yeah, I think that's an important thing. You know, when a woman is with another man and she has somebody that she's involved with, I think it hit a little bit different than when men do it. You
Mm-hmm.
understand? I just think it just rubs men a little bit different. It's like somebody's been in your house moving around your furniture. You know what I mean? Like it feels kind of like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Do you think that just adequacy, feeling adequate, would you say that that is among the top hierarchy of needs for men? Feeling adequate?
A man feeling inadequate, so he goes to another woman to
Feeling
feel.
adequate. Do you think that that feeling adequate is among the higher part of the hierarchy for needs for men?
Who feeling adequate? The man's need to
The
feel
man
adequate.
feeling adequate in that relationship, feeling enough, feeling adequate, feeling honored.
So in other words, let me see if I understand it. So if he doesn't feel adequate, then that'll increase the likelihood that he would cheat.
Correct.
I think it has more to do with matching. I think it has less to do with some of these outside things and more to do if you got a good match and partner. You know, if you're with somebody that's on equal footing with you, the likelihood that either person is going to cheat is going to decrease. You know, because you're both on equal footing. When you have different power dynamics, either the woman is up here and the man is down here, or vice versa, then the likelihood that the person is on top is going to cheat is going to increase. I don't. Yeah, yeah. I think it's more how you match with your partner. Picking a good partner, someone that's on par with you educationally, maybe someone that's on par with you financially, someone that's on par with you emotionally. Someone's maybe on par with you religiously. If you're a diehard Christian or Muslim and you get with somebody that's not, the likelihood that y'all gonna have different opinions about infidelity is going to be increased. And the likelihood that one of you are going to cheat is going to be increased, because if you're a Christian, you saying I'm not going to have sex till I get married, and this man is not a Christian and he don't believe in that, the likelihood that he's going to cheat is going to increase. Because you're not meeting a certain need based on your religious belief, but he doesn't share those same values. So his values are different. So he's going to get his needs met another way. So I think it more boils down to kind of how you match with your partner and the people you select as your partner.
Okay. And that's fair. So making sure that we are equally yoked, we are on the same page, we connect in that way. I made that comment, and again, this is not general statistics. I could only go by the 23, almost 24 years that I have been practicing. It seems to be like this general, and it's not always, but in my experience, I would say probably about 85% of the marriages that come into my office, or even in just couples, just people who are really having trouble with their commitment to one another, that the men who step out in those, and the women have to, the men that, because I was talking about what women need and I said safety, right? And that I'm finding that when women are not feeling safe and they find safety elsewhere, that generally that has been the general theme behind the why when they end up in my office for cheating. Yes. And so because women tend to cheat for emotional connectivity, emotional connectivity. And I know what you said about I get it. I'm just saying in my experience, that when they are not, and this is just from my experience in the cases that I've had, that women who don't have that or find that safety in their relationship, whether it's because they're with men who are emotionally absent, or they're not as validating as the women need, which is not healthy, but that's still, I'm just speaking. That they're finding safety in that emotional connectivity outside of that unit. Now, we talked about adventure, sexual adventure as well. I'm talking more about the emotional side of it. And what I have found in men is that the need to be or feel adequate, feel enough and honored is not there, whether it's because the woman is not honoring him, she's the breadwinner, he finds this validation and this uplifting outside of that unit. It just seems like it's just a common theme of adequacy, like the need to feel adequate. And I see your facial expression, but I can't ignore how frequent that theme ends up on my couch. Men not feeling adequate in the marriage, whether it's because the woman is not submissive enough, or, oh God, I'm thinking about all these different scenarios, but it leads me to believe that just feeling adequate is something that's among the hierarchy of the upper part of the hierarchy of needs, emotional needs for men.
That hasn't been my experience. To be honest, that hasn't been my experience in my practice. I can't recall anyone that's come in for couples therapy and the man said he didn't feel adequate. I can see that, with your clientele, as we discussed earlier, if you have very high achieving women and they have spouses that are not as high achieving, then yes, I can see that being a theme that would run through that particular population. A man will feel inadequate if, he's not fulfilling whatever role he thinks a man is supposed to fulfill in that particular relationship. And then he has an ultra high achieving spouse. I can see that. But I don't think for the everyday average person, the average male, they feel inadequate in relationships and therefore they go have sex with other people because the other woman makes them feel adequate. I think probably more than not, men have sex because they like sex, and they cheat because they like sex. I don't think it has anything to do with them feeling on whole, inadequate, or anything else for that matter. I think 90% of the time it's the physical nature of the act. It feels good. And particularly feels good when you have very pretty women that you're doing it with. So, you have the mental aspect, you got the physical aspect, you got the whole shebang. So I think men, 9 times out of 10, they're going to cheat just because, of the physical aspect. I think for women, it may be more of an emotional thing. Something that they're missing in a relationship, something that they're not getting from their partner, or they perceive that they're not getting from their partner. But then again, I think, that's not necessarily the case. I think that was probably more the case back in the day, when the power dynamic between men and women was different. Men were the breadwinners. But I think as you have more women moving into CEO positions and head of household positions, that power dynamic is shifting. Some women are going out and they were having sex because, like I talked about, because it feels good, because they like to do it. And now they're in a position where they're not afraid of losing their man because they're the breadwinner, right? So the likelihood that they're going to cheat is already increased because they're the breadwinner. So if they lose this scrub, they don't care. I got money, I get somebody else, So, if I like to have sex, I can be just like a man now. You know what I mean? Because the scale's a little bit more balanced, right? Men been doing it for years. It's my turn. And I had a woman tell me that, in so many words, it's just fine for men to do it. Why can't women do it? Right? Have sex with multiple people, just do it because they like to do it. It's like, it's a little bit different, but they didn't see it that way. They're just like, no, it's not. A man can do it, so can I. And I'm like, yeah, you can, but it's just a different dynamic. But I think as the the scales begin to level, you'll see more women just going out and cheating or and getting involved with other men just because they want to. They don't have a fear of losing their house or their car because it's their house and their car. A man isn't paying for it, it's theirs. You know what I mean? So if he leaves, oh well, they're doing it because they like to do it. It feels good, just like men, same thing.
And I think that you're right. I think that the reasoning behind it, this whole idea that women cheat for emotional connectivity, while that is high up on the scale and what statistics are showing, I think that over the past decade, that has shifted a lot.
Sure.
And this idea that, especially with just women feeling more empowered about themselves, their positions, their power, that we're starting to see that shift a little bit. Which brings me to the next statistic. And it's interesting that you say that, because I really don't even want to say this on the live, but I want to say, after 4 or 5 reviews of journal articles, it concluded that most women cheat for emotional connectivity, where men cheat for opportunity. That when the opportunity presents itself, that men will take it, because the driving force behind that is the desire for sex. So over the past 2 decades, the rate of infidelity it's not even tripled. It's the increase is drastic. It's like crazy how it has increased over the past 2 decades. What would you say about how our world has changed, or specifically our society has changed over the past 2 decades, that could have contributed to this crazy dramatic increase in infidelity?
Y'all get money now. They should have never gave women money. Y'all cheating now.
Women!
Like I said,
women! Please comment or do something.
Listen, like we was just talking about, what I believe is contributing to that is the scales are now being balanced, right? Women are no longer just homemakers. They're no longer dependent upon men to bring home the bacon. Women are making their own bacon. They going buying pigs, cutting them up, and building stores and everything else. Like, the scales are balancing, right? So that fear of losing your spouse and losing everything that comes with that man, your livelihood, your ability to live, really your ability to eat, that fear is gone. It's dissipating, because women are in charge of their own destinies now. They're not as reliant on men as they were 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. You know what I mean? You have more women CEOs now than ever. You know, you have more women millionaires now than ever. You know, you have more women in charge of companies now than ever. You know, so the scales aren't tipped so much in men's favor as they were years ago. You know, so women have a lot more freedom to do a lot more things, you know, that they might not have even considered years ago. You know, so, and it's not that, you know, women are just doing it, and that's the reason it's increased. But I think that's a big factor. You know, the scales are leveling out. And when you have women that are increasingly in positions of power and not afraid of, you know, losing their spouse, and can take care of themselves, and they're not afraid of any of those sorts of things like they were in years past, that increases the likelihood that, you know, they're going to engage in behaviors that they probably wouldn't have years ago. Men too.
So let's talk about some statistics before we close, because we're drawing to the end of our hour. So in general, men are more likely to cheat, right? These are just general statistics, right? Men are more likely to cheat.
Let me say something about that, right? So yeah, I'm trying to slide it in there we're on 2 minutes left. You're trying to slide it in there. No, ladies, women are not more
shocking stats, but I'll let you intervene.
Listen, no.
Because there's a point in life where that changes and it shifts.
I'm sorry?
There's a point in life where that actually shifts.
No.
Would you like me to share?
So this is the thing with studies. This is another study that studied the studies. And what the study that studied the studies found was, it isn't that men are more likely to cheat. It's in the reporting habits of men versus women. Women typically underestimate the amount of people they slept with, where men typically overestimate it. So men will report that they did a lot more, you know what I mean, and cheating and this and that on these studies than they actually did. And women tend to underreport. So then you get skewed messages like, yeah, so men, you know, cheat more, when in all actuality, we really don't know that for sure. I think we're leaning in that direction. I could agree with that. We're leaning, but, you know, some question about the reporting habits of both men and women, and whether the reporting habits actually reflect their actual behaviors.
So would you say that women can hide it better than men? No, I'm just kidding. And we just don't report it.
Why you start Joe?
We can hide it better. That's all, honey. No, anyway, okay.
Maybe.
So infidelity in women is higher between the ages of 18 to 29. And then there's like a sharp reverse of that at the age of 30, where it completely shifts and men take back over again. 18 to 29. But let's listen to this. So they find a peak in women, right? That most women cheat. The highest rate of infidelity in women is at the age of guess, Dr. Logan.
The highest rate of infidelity in women?
In women.
39.
39? Okay. Facebook, what do you think? What do you think the highest rate of infidelity in women, what age does that happen at? What's that age range where it happens for women? The highest rate of infidelity in women. So I'm going to let you know because there's a little delay. So Facebook is going to get the question in just a second. The age is
40.
60. 60
wow.
is the highest rate of infidelity in women. So I need you to break that down, Doc.
60? Y'all still cheating at 60? What the hell wrong with y'all?
60s. So Facebook, because we don't know, we'd like you guys to share your why 60s in women. The highest rate of infidelity happens around the age of 60 in women or in their 60s.
In their 60s.
So Candace says 40 to 50. Nate says 52. Nicole says 40. Terrence says 40. So people were kind of close to it because you said 39, right?
Yeah.
Estimated 39. Why is it that it's 60? Do you think it goes back to reporting and that the reporting is way off? Because I would have never thought women in their 60s have the highest rate of infidelity. Is it something about like menopause that just makes women horny? Like what I'm trying to think, like what in the world?
Women in their 60s.
And then it's worse for men. For men, it's 70s. And then it continues to scale up through even the 80s. Like when y'all gonna calm down and come home? By 9.
You talking about 9 by 6:30. You talking about they 70? Ain't come on 9 o'clock. It's 6:30.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
I mean that's
interesting to me. 60s for women and 70s and well into the 80s for men are the highest rate of infidelity happens at that age range. So let's say people are saying men are on decline sexually at that age because at 60, Candace says, because at 60, women are renewed and the old man is falling limp.
Hey, we got Viagra, Candace. Listen, we got medicine for that, sweetie. Keep you right for 3 days.
That is so funny. Oh, let's see. Nate says, I think 60 because they start reliving. And Eric Heilig says, he's thinking about it too. But yeah, the highest rate of infidelity happens at the age of 60 for women. I wonder if there was a woman that I met at Bike Week in Daytona. She said something to me that was very interesting.
She different already. She was at Bike Week.
I'm sorry?
I said she different already if she was at Bike Week.
I need you to stop because I love Bike Week. So we're at Bike Week and she's like, so how old are you? And I was like, I think at that time I may have just turned 40, right? So it was last year. I'm lying. Anyway, so I must have just turned 40. And she said, oh man, you still have another 2 decades to get it right. And I'm like, what? She's like, the 40s were horrible for me. She's like, 40s was when I got tired. 50s is when I started to get it right. I started to fall in love with myself. I stopped being, she said that in her 50s, she stopped apologizing for being herself. She stopped caring what people thought. So it was like, I'm going to wear this bikini on the beach. I don't care what nobody say. She just said that she just got to a place in her life where she was just tired of like explaining herself to people or just living for people. And she said when she hit 60, it was like she was in total freedom. And she's like, you have another 20 years to get it right. I'll never forget that.
But cheating though, I mean, I understand the freedom thing because a very dear family member of mine, and you know, they were married for years. I mean, they were like my picture of like what a marriage was supposed to look like and how it's supposed to work. And they separated after like 50, 60 years of marriage, and I couldn't wrap my mind around that. I'm like, but why? And you know, it was my aunt and my uncle. My aunt, you know, she just told me, she's like, I just got tired of them, you know, kind of one of them things, you know, I just want to do my thing. I got tired of the wine, whatever the case was. It was just kind of like, she just was tired, I guess. But I don't know. I don't understand that. It could be a lot of reasons for women to do that. I don't know why. I mean, I understand living your life and be more, you know, revitalized, and you know, you've had your kids are gone, you're empty nesting it, you live your life, you got a career, hopefully you got some money, you get a little retirement check by that time, you can travel, you can move and shake a little bit more. I get that. Does that translate into cheating? I'm not so sure about that. You know, because I think if you, one, if they're cheating, that means they're married, right? Like, or they have a significant other, right? So, and if you're married at 60, I would imagine you just didn't get married at 60. I would imagine you've probably been married for quite some time, typically, right? That would be my guess. I could be wrong, but that would be my guess. Typically, you're not gonna get married at 60, maybe at 50 or earlier, you know. So you got some time in with this person. So to go out on a limb and just start cheating seems interesting. And I would like to kind of read the study and see what they suggest the issue was with those women, or with the men who start doing it at 70. As far as being, you know, limp, like Candace said, smarty. They have drugs for that, Candace, if you didn't know. Lots of drugs for that. They're getting cheaper every day. So that is no longer a problem for most men. Impotence is a problem, true indeed. No doubt. But they do have medication for that. I mean, they have all kinds of things for that. So that's not as big of a problem as it used to be for somebody that's 70. They can take a pill and be okay. And they have them for women too, you know, with the dry and things like that. Because yeah, Candace, y'all, machinery ain't as well lubed as it used to be when you was a little bit younger. There might be a little assistance too. But yeah, I don't know.
Candace, speak, Candace.
With Candace in her comments.
With you.
Candace laughing.
Some comments with you before
what did they say?
What was that?
Did they give any suggestions in the article you read about that? About the 60-year-olds cheating?
It was literally just stats. Just stats and trends. I wasn't looking for the why. I was looking for those stats, and I just found that so interesting because it was so shocking to me. I'm like, 60s. That was interesting. Eric Heilig says that the older the people get, the older they are, they don't care about what people think of them, as you said, Schellie Fanfan. He said the older people get, the more willing they are to share the truth about infidelity. So it goes back to what you were saying about reporting. Maybe it's a reporting thing that at 60 you're like, it is what it is.
As you don't care
in younger years.
I would challenge Eric and say, if you don't care about what people think, why are you cheating? Right? Because you only cheat because people care. If you don't worry about people caring, you just tell them, like, I'm going to have sex with this person, right? You know, so it's
still cheating though, whether you're honest about it or not, whether you're declaring that you're going to do it or not, it's still infidelity. But
I don't think these people you're referring to are telling their spouses they're going to go have sex with other people, right? I think the cheating you're referring to is people that's doing this, you know, and their spouses are unaware of it, right? So that's something different, you know. If your spouse is unaware of it, then you are worried about being judged. If you don't care about being judged, then you tell your spouse and just go do it anyway, you know. But if you hide it, then you worry about your spouse judging you. You worry about some negative repercussions.
Yolanda says that maybe because the children are probably grown and they have sacrificed and dealt with the ups and downs of marriage and stopped caring and want to satisfy herself or everyone else. That was just a perspective. Let's see. Someone else put, Eric says, my father is 84 and he shares openly about his sex life. Let's see. Ernest.
Is he married and cheating though?
I'm sorry.
Now I was responding to Eric. See, his dad's 84, but is he married and cheating? Don't answer that, Eric. Don't answer that. This public forum. Please don't answer that, Eric.
I know, right? Not on this live.
Not on live.
Ernest Smith says they spent the past 20 to 30 years married unhappily, and they decide to take control of what they can. And this is one of the outcomes of this. Okay, so there's a lot of comments here. We can spend another hour just addressing those comments. I would ask if you could just kind of peruse the comments, and if there were any questions that we may have missed to answer them. We wanted to just have this discussion on the psychology behind infidelity, and we talked about the importance of defining that with the person that you love. It's important to be open about those sexual desires that you are not comfortable actually sharing with the person that you love.
All that freaky stuff you like. All that freaky stuff you like.
All the craziness. It is okay to be open about that. Okay. We talked about being present within that sexual experience, that sometimes we have things on our minds, or we're thinking about someone else, or we're thinking about what we're going to do after, but just being mindful and just allow yourself to be in the moment. We talked about that. We talked about men loving and still being able to cheat, and how it's important to get to the point where you love enough to not want to hurt the person. We talked about statistics. We talked about boundaries. We talked about high achieving women. We talked about safety in women, emotional connectivity for women, men, and adequacy, and the desire for sex, and testosterone levels, and how the biological aspect plays a part. This was loaded, and I'm sure that we could take 5 minutes and make that into a 4-hour workshop, right? Because it's so huge. I think that at the end of the day, it all comes down to this. It's okay to want to know the why. I think it's fine to want to know the why. But at the end of the day, it's also about what are you going to do about it? Right? We can talk about the why forever. But a lot of the times when people are coming, especially for Ask Schellie questions, it's about, well, why do you think? And the woman blaming herself. We get a lot of women that blame themselves for the infidelity on behalf of their husband. We didn't touch on that today. But it all comes down to, what are your non-negotiables? And how willing are you to stick to them and guard them with everything in you? It's important to have those non-negotiables, because when you have those non-negotiables, I don't know if the why is as big of a problem. However, I think that it's important to understand. I think that many people, clearly by the outcome on this live, that people are seeking to understand more. But I also want to draw people's attention to your why and your non-negotiables, and how willing you are to protect that. I wanted, Dr. Logan, for you to just end with just one final thought to the person who's listening, who is really hurting, whether it's a man or a woman, just really hurting, came on this live because they really wanted to understand, because they are hurting and don't know what to do. They know of the infidelity, whether they have confronted their partner or not. They know about it. They're hurt. There was no misunderstanding. We knew that we were in this one together. We knew that having sex outside of this unit was unacceptable. We knew that emotional attachments outside of this unit was unacceptable. We were in this to win it. And still yet, the person I love stepped out on me. I know about it. And now what do? What is a final thought that you would have for that person?
My final thought would be, give it time. Don't make any decisions, any rash decisions right now, because you're in a very emotional space. When we're in an emotional space, we don't make logical decisions. We typically don't make logical decisions. We move from our heart and not from our head. And you want to move from your head and not from your heart in this particular instance. So give yourself time. I'll say it's going to hurt. That's not going to go anywhere. but that's not, that's part of the course. It's going to hurt. But what you do with that hurt is the bigger thing. But whatever you do, take your time to do it. Be hurt. Don't run from the hurt. Don't try to mask the hurt. Don't try to hide the hurt. Don't try to push the hurt down. If you hurt, be hurt. If you need to cry, cry. And do that as much as you need to do it. But know that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and that all things pass with time. If you give yourself enough time, that hurt will pass as well. So that's what I'm gonna leave you with. It's light at the end of the tunnel. Just give yourself some time. Be in your hurt. Don't run from it. That's okay. But just give yourself some time before you make any serious decisions.
And I definitely agree with that. And I think that when you are in that space, I think that is more so the reason to get help from someone who is not in your blind spot with you, because your girlfriends want to, flatten his tires just as much as you do. And if it's a guy, your guy friends want to, poke holes in her tires as well.
No, we ain't poking holes in tires.
I'm sorry?
We ain't poking holes in tires. Men
They
don't
don't?
do it. Huh?
Men don't poke holes in tires?
We poke holes in people, not tires.
Jeez. Okay. So anyway, bringing it back.
Thank you.
Well, we prefer to do the tires. We want to live. We like our independence, but I think it's important to understand that people that love you are in your blind spot with you. So they're angry with you, they're hurt with you, how can, so we just have to be careful who we rely on as support to bring us out of that space. And I think what Dr. Quebec and I do, we're in an objective place. We're not in your blind spot. And I think that because we are experienced, we have the training, we have the anointing, that we are able to assist people to heal through that and then make a decision when you're not in that emotional space. And so that's what therapy does. And it doesn't have to be with a psychotherapist, I suppose, but we just have to be careful that we're not relying on other people who are just as much in your blind spot as you are. No rash decisions, because when we make rash decisions, I'm leaving, I'm taking the kids, and then you realize at the end of the day that you actually want to work on it, and you come back, like you're conditioning people to not take your yes as yes and to not take your no as no. Your word is everything that you have. And so it's important to take your time before you make decisions and make declarations that you cannot honor, because nobody will honor you or what you say if you don't do it for you. So take your time, get the help that you need, and make the decision when you are at a place where you are thinking clearly and you've gotten the support, you've learned the skill set, you've done all the development needed to make the best decision for you and your family. Dr. Quebec, how can people find you?
You can find me at thankpsychology.com on the web. All my information is there. Please check me out, phone numbers, addresses, and all that. We're doing telehealth. So that's where you can find me, thankpsychology.com. I just want to say thank you so much for having me again, Miss Schellie. It was a blast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your yes. And do you have a YouTube channel yet, or that's still developing?
It's coming. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. It's coming. Enough people are getting on me. That's making me want to do it. So I'm getting back to it. Look forward in about a month or so. It's coming.
Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Dr. Quebec Logan is an amazing psychologist. He is gifted. So please reach out to him. Women who are on the live, he's single. Anyway, and so reach out to him. But he's in Phoenix, so you're gonna have to want to fly out to Arizona and live there.
They CEO chicks, they can fly.
Huh?
They CEO chicks, they can fly. When the pandemic is over.
CEO chick teaching. Oh, you're just saying CEO women as a whole, right? You're just saying CEO women in general, right?
No, I'm just saying they can fly. They can afford to fly. was
women who are CEOs. You're talking about
right.
high achieving women in general. Okay.
Right.
Because I coach for a network called CEO Chick. So every time he says it, I think he's referring to the network, period.
I'm sorry.
That he's referring to women as a whole, high achieving women, period.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry about that.
Okay. So again, thank you all for tuning in. We will address your questions and comments offline. We thank you so much for joining us for this week's Ask Schellie segment. We are way over time, but we thank you guys for sticking with us as we talked about the psychology behind infidelity. So rich, it's so deep. I'm sure there are many areas that we were not able to cover, but we hope that with the areas that we did, that you were able to get some tools to add to your wellness toolbox. Till next Tuesday at 12, I will see you then. Be well. Take care of yourself. This too shall pass. So continue to be hopeful in this time. Continue to be helpful in this time. Take care of yourself and take care of the people that you love. Blessings.